5 years sounds like a long time until you're in it, and then suddenly it doesn't. Most people spend the first 4 of those 5 years thinking there's still plenty of time to figure this out. Then, year 5 arrives, and they're scrambling to make decisions that should have been made 2 or 3 years earlier. Decisions that, had they made them sooner, would have been a lot less stressful and a lot more profitable. That's what today is about. I'm Melanie Kent, Social Security Specialist, and if retirement is somewhere in your next 5 years, these 7 things are where your attention should be right now. Some of these open windows that close on a specific birthday. Others take time to work, and they only work if you start them early enough. Let's go through them. The first thing, and I want to start here because it surprises almost everyone who actually does it, is to go look at your real Social Security number. Not what you think it'll be, not what someone told you years ago, your actual projected benefit, pulled from your actual earnings record as it stands today. Go to SSA.gov and create a My Social Security account if you don't have one. It takes about 10 minutes. When you're in, you'll see your projected monthly benefit at 3 different ages: 62, your full retirement age, and 70. Write all 3 down. Here's why this matters so much right now specifically. The gap between those 3 numbers is enormous, and the decision of when to file is one that gets made, consciously or not, in the years leading up to retirement. If you don't know the numbers, you can't make an informed choice. And this isn't a decision you can walk back. For anyone born in 1960 or later, full retirement age is 67. Filing at 62 means a permanent 30% reduction. Waiting to 70 means 124% of your full benefit, 8% added for every year you hold off past 67. The difference between those 2 endpoints over the course of a retirement can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. You need to see your actual numbers, not generic estimates, before any of the other planning makes sense. The second thing is specifically for people between 60 and 63, and the window closes on your 64th birthday, so I want to make sure you know about this. Congress made a change under Secure Act 2.0 called the Super Catch-up Contribution. Here's how it works. Anyone 50 or older can already make a larger contribution to their 401k than the standard limit. In 2025, that's $23,500 standard plus a $7,500 catch-up for a total of $31,000. But if you're between 60 and 63, you get an even larger catch-up. In 2025, that super catch-up is $11,250 instead of $7,500, bringing your total possible contribution to $34,750 for the year. That window, ages 60 through 63, is the highest contribution period in your entire working life, and most people don't know it exists. If you're in that age range right now and not maxing this out, you're leaving tax-advantaged growth on the table during the years you can contribute the most. That's worth talking to your HR department about this week. Third, and this one has a hard deadline that most people miss until it's too late, you need to understand your Medicare enrollment window and start planning your health coverage bridge. Medicare starts at 65, period. And your initial enrollment window is a 7-month period. 3 months before your 65th birthday, the month of your birthday, and 3 months after. If you miss that window and don't have qualifying employer coverage, you'll pay a late enrollment penalty for Part B. That penalty is 10% added to your monthly premium for every full 12-month period you waited, and it follows you for life. Part B's standard premium right now is $202.90 a month in 2026. A 2-year delay means you'd pay 20% more than that every single month for the rest of your life. That's a permanent surcharge for missing a window. Now, if you're still working at 65 and covered through an employer plan with at least 20 employees, You can delay Medicare without penalty. You'd then have 8 months from when your employment ends to enroll. But you need to know the rules before you get there, not after. And if you're planning to retire before 65, this part matters a lot. You need a plan for how you're covering health insurance in that gap. Cobra is expensive, often $600 to $2,000 a month for a family. ACA marketplace plans through healthcare.gov are worth looking at seriously, especially if your income in early retirement will be lower, because subsidies are based on income. This is one of the most underestimated costs of early retirement, and it needs to be in your plan. Fourth, and this is a big one for anyone who has most of their retirement savings in a traditional 401k or IRA. Now is a genuinely important time to think about Roth conversions. Here's the basic idea. A traditional 401k or IRA is pre-tax money. You'll pay income taxes on every dollar you pull out in retirement. A Roth account is the opposite. You pay taxes now, and everything that grows from there comes out tax-free. The reason the next few years matter specifically, your income is probably at or near its peak while you're working. But once you retire, before Social Security starts and before required minimum distributions kick in, there's often a window where your taxable income drops significantly. That window is when converting some of your traditional savings to Roth can be done at a lower tax rate than you'd pay later. Converting too much in one year can backfire. It gets added to your ordinary income, which can push you into a higher tax bracket. And if you're within 2 years of Medicare eligibility, a large conversion can spike what's called your MAGI, your Modified Adjusted Gross Income, which determines your Medicare Part B premium 2 years later. The Medicare Income Surcharge, called IRMAA, is based on income from 2 years prior, and the thresholds are cliffs, not gradual slopes. Cross the threshold by $1 and you pay the full surcharge. So the conversation isn't, should I convert? It's, how much should I convert each year and when? That's worth sitting down and modeling carefully. The 5 years before and the early years after retirement are typically the best window. Once RMDs start, currently age 73 for most people, 75 if you were born in 1960 or later, your taxable income goes up whether you want it to or not. One more thing on this. The federal tax rates that were set by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act were permanently extended under legislation signed in July 2025. So the convert now before rates go up urgency that some advisors have been using is gone. But the Roth conversion window argument still stands. It's about your personal income timing, not tax law expiration. The fifth thing is one we talked about in detail last week. Pull your real monthly expense number. Go back through 24 months of actual bank and credit card statements and calculate what you truly spend on average per month. Not what you estimate, not what feels right, what the statements actually show. I keep coming back to this because it's the number that most often derails a retirement plan that looks fine on paper. People consistently underestimate by 20 to 30%, and they do it because they think in regular monthly bills and forget everything irregular. Car repairs, flights to visit family, unexpected medical costs, helping adult children, home repairs, all of it. These things don't feel like monthly expenses because they don't show up every month, but they show up every year. Your real expense number is the foundation of every other calculation. If it's wrong, your gap is wrong. Your savings target is wrong. Everything downstream is off. Do this exercise. It's uncomfortable for about 20 minutes, and then it's incredibly clarifying. Sixth, build a clear picture of what your income floor looks like on day 1 of retirement. You did step 1. You know your Social Security at 3 ages. Now add everything else. Pension if you have one, rental income, part-time work you plan to continue, any other guaranteed or semi-reliable income. Write down what that total looks like if you retire at 62, at 65, and at 67. 3 different scenarios, 3 different income floors. Then, put your real monthly expense number next to each one and calculate the gap. How much your portfolio has to cover each month. That gap number is what tells you whether you're ready. Not your total savings, not some benchmark someone else defined. Your gap. A smaller gap means less pressure on your portfolio, more resilience when markets drop, more flexibility in how you manage withdrawals. For a lot of people, this exercise shows something interesting. They assumed they needed a much larger portfolio than they actually do, because they were ignoring how much Social Security was going to cover. Social Security gets dismissed a lot in retirement planning conversations. It shouldn't be. For many households, it's the most valuable financial asset they have. Guaranteed, inflation adjusted, for life. Put it on paper and treat it like what it is. Meet Carol. She's 60, has been putting off this whole conversation for a few years, and came in recently convinced she'd started too late to do much. She had about $310,000 saved, was planning to keep working until 67, and assumed her Social Security would be somewhere around $1,500 a month. She hadn't checked her actual SSA.gov projections. When she did, her benefit at 67 was $2,380 a month. That's a number she'd never seen written down before. Paired with her expected expenses of about $4,200 a month, her actual gap was $1,820, not $4,200. Her portfolio only needed to cover that gap, not her whole life. She was also 61, still inside the super catch-up window. She bumped her 401k contributions to the maximum for the next 2 years. She started looking at Roth conversions for her lower income years after retirement, and she mapped out a healthcare bridge plan to get from 67 to 65. Wait, 67 to 65 doesn't work that way. She was retiring at 67, so Medicare was already covered. What she hadn't thought about was what happened if she wanted to retire at 65 instead. 2 years of healthcare coverage she'd need to plan for. Carol didn't start too late. She started at exactly the right time to make meaningful changes. 5 years is enough, but 5 years goes fast. What's the one thing on this list that you haven't done yet? Tell me in the comments. I read all of them, and the answers actually shape what I cover next. And the seventh thing, and I'll be honest, this one's the most personal, take a clear look at your high-interest debt. This isn't about being debt-free at all costs. Low-rate mortgage debt in retirement isn't necessarily a crisis, but high-interest debt, credit cards, personal loans, anything carrying a 15, 18, 20% rate is actively working against you. Every dollar going toward that interest is a dollar that can't go into tax-advantaged savings, can't grow, and will have to come from your portfolio in retirement instead. The 5 years before retirement are when this matters most, because it's your last best window to clear it with earned income before you're relying on savings. If you carry a balance into retirement, you're withdrawing from your portfolio to service debt. That accelerates depletion in a way that's very hard to reverse. No specific formula here, just an honest look at where your money is going every month and whether any of it is going to interest on debt that could be eliminated before you stop working. 5 years. 7 things. None of them require perfection, and most of them don't require a lot of money. They require attention and some time sitting with your real numbers. Log into SSA.gov, pull your bank statements, check your contribution limits, know your Medicare window. These are concrete steps you can take this week, and the earlier you take them, the more runway you have to actually do something with what you find. Tomorrow, we're talking about something that doesn't get nearly enough airtime. What actually happens to your Social Security when your spouse passes away? And why most couples have never sat down and run those numbers. It's a hard conversation, but it's one of the most important ones in retirement planning. See you then.